Hey time travelers, I'm Tylah Hill and welcome back to Nostalgia and Nonsense. It's episode 2 of the podcast, and this week we're diving into a piece of Australian history that was once the cornerstone of a community safety program for children, but now it's largely faded from memory. That's right, we're talking about safety houses. And don't forget that new episodes drop every Tuesday, so make sure you check back here every week. I also have a crazy story about the time that I got caught naked by a stranger. That's coming up soon. And just a quick reminder, you can also join me over on my Patreon, which is called Internet Island. You can get exclusive content and support the pod, plus also a discount on nostalgic merchandise and apparel, and my party game, Off Your Chops. But for now, grab your time traveling goggles and find a cozy spot as we take a trip down memory lane and look back at the Safety House program in Australia. Alright guys, let's hit rewind. The safety house, these were signs of a yellow face, and you'd sometimes see them on some people's houses, either next to their front door or their letterbox. And basically it was meant to be a program that was started in Australia in the late 1980s. And it was supposed to offer kind of like a place where children could go if they found themselves in trouble or if they felt unsafe. They could run to the nearest safety house to get help. There was mostly houses, but also a few businesses that were selected to be part of the program. And basically to qualify, you had to undergo a lot of different checks and criminal history checks and also like home inspections. I grew up in Queensland and I just remember walking to school. I'd walk past like at least 5 safety houses. So they were like pretty popular and everywhere, but I never actually really ended up in a situation where I had to go and use one. But I wanted to know and understand anyone out there that had actually gone to a safety house and like what happened. And I do have a few stories of people who did need to use a safety house. One of them was getting chased by a random dude in a ute. Imagine being a kid and a random ute is like following you around, like bloody scary. So this person saw a safety house. They also called their mum to come pick them up. It turned out that the dude in the ute was actually their dad, but their dad had shaved their face so they didn't recognize them. Imagine that. Like, leave me alone. Stop, I'm running away. And just you're the dad, like just in the car being like, bro, what are you doing? Get in. Like, I'm your dad. Bloody crazy, but pretty funny story. I'm glad that it was nothing actually serious or a stranger actually following you around, because that would be messed up. Another person said that them and their brother were getting harassed by some older kids. So what they did is you go to the nearest safety house, just like it suggests. You're in danger, someone's annoying you, you're in trouble, so go to the nearest safety house. So these people did. They showed up to the safety house, knocked on the door, and the person at the safety house opened the door and told them to bugger off. Literally, I'd be pissed off every single day if this happened to me. If I was actually in serious trouble, I showed up at a safety house and the person told me to go away. The audacity to sign up and join a program and then just being told to go away and not actually care for like the kids that are showing up. Like, that's wild. And also, like, did these people get paid to be part of the safety house and to have their house a safety house? Or was it just out of their good of their heart? Like, I don't understand how you would want to be like a safety house. Or, yeah, surely it had to just be out of the good of your heart and that you're like, yeah, I want to be a safety house and help kids in my local community. Like, it had to be. Surely. Whack. We were literally always told at the schools and by police, like growing up in the early 2000s, that if there is a safety house, go to it. So I feel like it's just such a violation of the trust showing up at one and being told to go away. I mean, I guess it isn't the best system because you're just trusting another stranger. You're told not to talk to strangers, but if there's a yellow happy face at the house, then yeah, talk to those strangers because they're selectively good strangers, supposedly. Another person said that when they were 14, they ran away from home because things were going on at home. So they got a train to their friend's house, but then they got lost on the way to the train station. So the train was late and they went to a safety house and explained to the person there. And the person at the safety house drove them to their friends and waited until they got let inside. That's so good. Oh, that's so nice. I'm so glad there's someone at the safety house actually helped out. And like, I think for the most part, the program actually probably like did help a lot of people. But obviously there's times where it hasn't for some people. But that's so good that this person actually got help and like got dropped off at their friend's house, and the person even waited until they went inside. Oh, faith in humanity. Another person said that their nan had a sticker on their house when they were a kid. So apparently she was home one afternoon and she heard knocking at the door, like frantic, crazy knocking. Someone's in trouble. So when she opened the door, there was a 17-year-old bloke covered in blood. Holy crap. He got into a fight with older people at the shops. He bolted and came across the house, and her nan let him in. Her mum came home to see nan on the phone to the police while he cleaned himself up. And the next part of the story had always been embellished depending on who you ask, but apparently a year later, after this 17-year-old bloke showed up at her nan's house covered in blood, this girl was born. So that's how her mum met her dad. Her dad knocked on the safety house door when he was 17 and met the mum. They were both teenagers at the time, and they had a baby a year later. Can you imagine? That's a bloody love story if you've ever heard of one. Wild, wild, wild. Next person says their grandparents were signed up to be a safety house, and they used to live with their grandparents at the time. So they recall a time that one person actually used the safety house, and they were about 8 or 9 years old. So a girl a bit younger than her knocked on the door asking for help because someone was following her. Holy crap. My son used a safety house when he was 6 years old. On the second day of kindergarten, he decided that he had enough of school for the day and left the school at 11:30. Oh, what a rebel. Imagine being in kindergarten and having the audacity to leave the school. I'd be bloody scared. He went to a safety house halfway on the way to home. Oh, good job though. And the man brought him home. Wow. That's insane. The school principal turned up 2 minutes later, panicking because they didn't know where the 6-year-old had gone. That's ridiculous. How can a 6-year-old escape a school and the principal doesn't even know where he is? I'm sure it happens all the time, but I know there's a lot of kids at school, but it's so wild to me that a kid could just be able to leave school and get that far away from a school. When I was about 19, I lived in a shitty share house with some friends. A young lady about the same age as us knocked on the door. So I walked to the door and I said, "Oh, hey, like, are you here for my roommate, Ethan?" She said, "No." And I said, "Okay, yeah, what do you want?" She said, "Oh, can I use the toilet?" She said, "Oh, yeah, like, no worries, just down there." She finished the toilet, assuming that she did a wee, and walked out. So she said, "Thanks heaps." And I said, "No problem," and like waved her goodbye. Then after that, after she left, I asked my housemate, I was like, do you know that girl?" He's like, "Nah, I don't know her." And then he looked on the front window and seen that there was a safety house sticker. So they're not sure if maybe she read the safety house sticker and thought, "Oh, I can use this house." But the crazy thing about this story is that this was in 2019. So like literally only a few years ago. And safety houses aren't really that much of a thing anymore. Like no one uses them. There's stickers around everywhere still, but it's not literally a program. The program in Victoria especially, like it finished in 2013. And I think last year in WA, they independently still run a safety house program. So maybe this girl was from like Perth or WA and that's why she was in Melbourne and she still thought it's kind of like a thing. But I don't think I could just knock on someone's door, even if they had a safety house sticker, and just be like, "So can I piss in your toilet?" Like, I don't think I could do it unless I was super, super, super desperate. Then even then, I think I'd rather go and piss in a bush. I would just chuck a squat somewhere, I reckon. Get a shiwi or something. This person said they cut their knee open at a BMX track in 1988 and started walking home. God, safety houses have been around for ages because I remember it in the early 2000s, but going back to the 80s, like, that's wild. So this person started walking home and they started feeling tired and really faint from of blood loss, they think. So the jeans and runners were soaked with blood. That's insane. So they knocked on the door of a safety house and asked if they could use the phone to call their parents. The old guy took him in and said, "Where do you live?" I answered. He grabbed my bike, put me into his car and took me home. And I bled all over his seat. Thank you to that person. I'm guessing you're gone now, but I'll never forget that. Oh, that's really sweet. Humanity. I didn't think I was going to cry in this pod episode. I thought this would be a bit of fun, but I'm really glad that there is some humanity out there. But at the same time, it's so sad that this is even needed, and it's also sad that there's other people that have went to safety houses and never really got the help or support that they actually needed. So, crazy. There's also a lot of safety houses signs still around, which I find interesting. So is there a safety house sign that is still near you, even though that the program is no longer existing in most areas? Let me know. Send me a DM at Tylah Hill, or you can also drop me a voice note there to be featured in the pod. This is the Memories Unlocked section of the podcast, which is designed to be the part of the podcast where you guys can interact with me. You can submit your own memories that you've recently unlocked. So if you've been scrolling on TikTok or Instagram and you've seen something that's triggered a little spark in your brain, or you've been talking with some mates and you've brought up something super nostalgic and you want to share it with someone or start the conversation on the podcast about it, then this is where you can submit them for your chance to be featured on the podcast. To submit them, you can either send me a voice note or message on my Instagram, or you can also join my internet island, which I'm sure you know by now. Basically, it's an online community where we talk all things nostalgia. I post some exclusive stuff in there as well. And yeah, it's just a bloody good time over on my Patreon internet island. This week's Memories Unlocked, the first one comes from Kiki, who has asked me, what is the show where they would visit different plants and they would visit a different plant basically in each episode, and they'll also be in a rocket ship? I think the closest thing I can think of that sounds like that show is What, where they have the blue and the pink little tiny alien. They're like the siblings. I think they're siblings in the show. And they spend their days in a spaceship and exploring the environment around them. And I think their spaceship is also steam powered as well. So you see some cool steam and effects to the animation. And they kind of go around and learn about all the different fauna and animals and plants. And I think their characters' names are Dottie Watt. And that's the smart, responsible ship's captain who spends most of her time supervising her brother, who can be a little bit or more on the crazy side. And the brother's name is Spotty Watt, and he's the ship's engineer, and he's an artist as well. I think he draws a lot in the show. So I'm not sure this is the show you're talking about, Kiki, but otherwise maybe it could also be Tiny Planets, where the main characters are on the lounge. There are tiny planets calling. Do you remember that show with Bing and Bong? I always called the show Bing and Bong. I think most people did, but it's actually called Tiny Planets. They also go around and explore their surroundings and their world in the solar system, and they go on a flying white couch to explore, and they just learn about everything, and maybe they make new friends, have a bunch of fun. Maybe that's the show that you're talking about as well. I think there could be a few different shows, but if there's anything else you remember about it, let me know. And if any of you guys can think of any other shows that sound similar to this, chuck me a DM. Someone else, Young Soldier, has asked me what was the show where the main protagonist got trapped in amber for 1,000 years and then ended up back with their crew. Apparently it played on Roller Coaster, which Roller Coaster was on ABC. Bye for now, not forever. And one day he said, bye forever, because he hasn't came back. But apparently this show played on Roller Coaster around 2007 on ABC. I literally have no idea what that show could be. It almost sounds like it could be an episode of The Magic School Bus, because The Magic School Bus is a vibe. I'm not sure if it played on ABC though. But yeah, if anyone knows a show that sounds like that, where someone's got trapped in amber for 1,000 years, and then ended up back with their crew, let me know. Caleb said that he met the Hooly Doolies and got a DVD signed by them. Oh, I had a Hooly Doolies VHS. Well, I had a few VHSs from the Hooly Doolies, and they signed some of them too when I went to their concert. I feel like it's literally such a crazy thing and such a staple thing even in Australia to have a Hooly Doolies VHS signed by them. I really miss the Hooly Doolies though. I need to figure out where they are. I had messaged like a few Facebook profiles of the people that were in Hooly Doolies, but they never replied to me. But if anyone has any leads on where the Hooly Doolies are, I would love to know, because, there was Russell the muscly kangaroo, and Tickle, who would do the ballet, and then the main characters as well. There's David, Bruce, and Antoine. You guys remember them? Antoine, he loved soccer. Bruce was my favorite, mainly because he was yellow. He had the yellow shirt on, and yellow is my favorite color. And I think my favorite VHS of the Hooly Doolies was the circus one, which was like roll up, roll up. Oh, it's such a vibe. And I love clowns and all things to do with like circus. So when the Hooly Doolies released the circus one, oh, I loved that one. I think High Five also had like a circus themed VHS as well. Or maybe it was just an episode. I think it was called like, the Traveling Circus from High Five. Oh, that's such a good VHS. Tim was always my favorite character in High Five growing up. Like, he was the music dude. He was so cool and fun, and it was just an all-around vibe. And also, I didn't realize that Tim plays the voice of Chop Chop. Like, it took me so long. Like, only as an adult, I found out that Tim was the voice of that puppet. So wild to me. But anyway, if you guys have a memory that you've recently unlocked or you want to share it with the pod, make sure you send me a DM over on Instagram and we can chat about it here on the pod potentially. So yeah, once again, thanks so much for all your support, and let's get on with the next part of the pod. All right, next up, I have another super embarrassing story to tell. This one is kind of more recent, actually, and it's about the time that I was caught naked by a stranger. This was only a few years ago, and it's actually happened to me multiple times. But basically, I was in a hotel room in the Gold Coast, and I was just having a nice shower, like, washing my hair, just having some peace and quiet time to myself. And then I leave and walk out of the bathroom to find a lady standing there in my room, and she was horrified. And so was I, because hello, why are you in my room? And she's like, hello, why are you here naked? And I'm like, it's my room. And she's like, yeah, but I'm cleaning it. It was the cleaner. So anyway, she quickly panicked and ran out, which is what I would do too. I was like, oh, thank God. I quickly got dressed. And then a few moments later, I walked into the bathroom again and I realized that she'd actually been in the bathroom. I don't know if she was in the bathroom when I was in the shower, and was she just pretending not to notice? I don't understand. But her spray bottle was left next to the sink. I actually have a photo of the spray bottle sitting by the bench. So if you want to see it, I'm going to upload it onto the Internet Island, which is our Patreon community. So you can jump on there and join to get access to exclusive content and behind the scenes, and also see the photo of this lady's spray bottle left in my hotel bathroom. And like I said, this isn't the first time this has happened to me. Maybe it is more of a me problem, but another time I had a husband and wife that were both Russian, and they came in my room and I was just standing there in a towel once again after leaving the bathroom. So I didn't know how to explain to them to leave the room, because hello, you can see that I'm naked. And basically they just stood there and just looked at me, and I didn't know what to do. But eventually the wife left the room, but then the dude just stayed there. I don't know if they could understand English or not though, because I think they recently had migrated to Australia. So I think they were probably just as confused as I was. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I'll be sharing some near-death experiences with you in the next episode. So make sure you check back next week. You can also check out my Instagram for more stories and where you can send voice notes and be involved. Before we wrap up, I want to once again really thank you for joining me on this podcast and helping me out with it. Remember to leave a review or rate the podcast, and tune back in next Tuesday for Nostalgia and Nonsense. Until next time, keep reminiscing, stay safe, don't be naked in hotel rooms, and I'll catch you next week.